Hello there, I'm Kiyos Cerrone Beatmaker, and welcome to the Monday Mindset Rants. And on this episode, we're going to discuss focus on what you can control, be grateful for what you have. This has kind of been on my mind the past couple days, and it's mostly been on my mind because I've just kind of been just thinking about just how difficult the world is becoming for all of us. And I know that for many of us, we're struggling with the idea of control. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of us are, with the way the world is going, with the way the country is going, where society is going, whatever it may be, we're feeling that we don't really have much control. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. The reason why I say focus on what you can control is because that's, what allows you to be able to move forward. Because without focusing on what you can control, you begin to lose sight of who you are and you begin to lose sight of your purpose. And you fall victim to the fear and the insecurity that is being prolific within the world around us. And when I talk about focusing on what you can control, that means focusing on yourself, focusing on your individuality, and what that means for you in your own personal universe, as I like to say. And as much as it's hard to focus on what you can control, you need to understand that, we are all connected in one way or another. And I feel that that's also in terms of the energy that we put out within ourselves and our perspectives as well. If our perspective is full of negative thoughts and of a negative mindset, the world around us and our personal universe will, begin to implode upon itself. It will begin to fall victim to the programming and the propaganda and the victim mentality. And with focusing on what you can control, you're focusing on just being you. And that is already the most hardest thing to do on this planet. I always like to say that they don't pay us enough to be human. And I really do feel that is the case. How often are we finding ourselves in situations where we have completely just let go? And we are so hell bent on controlling every aspect of everything. I mean, you see it on social media, you see it on Twitter and on TikTok and on Facebook, on Instagram, people who are so, they have given up on trying to find a control within their individuality and within themselves, that they seek to bully and harass the outside world into control, because they don't have any control over themselves and their insecurities and their fears. They have given into them and have allowed them to become the judge, jury, and unfortunately the executioner of their mind, their body, and their self-being and self-worth. And they take that out on everybody else. And that is also a side effect of, you know, playing the victim all the time. Because people who are constantly playing the victim, they are also, um, they, they don't have any control, because they tend to look at the entire world as being responsible for their own well-being, for their accountability, and that is not the case. And if you hear what I'm saying and you feel what I'm saying, please make sure to hit the like button, and make sure to subscribe if you're new, and share your thoughts during the stream or during the replay. But you see, this is also the problem that we have with the inability to focus on what we want, on what we can control. We are convinced by society and the world that we need to dictate how everyone views and sees us, and that's very prevalent in American society and culture. We call ourselves the world police in many ways, and we are also, the fact of the matter is, we are a leading purveyor when it comes to you know major trends in the culture of the world. Look at how much influence hip hop has had. Rock and roll, jazz, basketball, all these different things that we have created, that have influenced the outside world. And we have to also realize that even within ourselves, the things that we do will in fact, affect the outside world, regardless of whether or not you want to acknowledge it or believe it. And I know that that is hard for us to realize. And that's why I say that you need to focus on what you can control within your personal universe. And that is how you focus on what you can control, and you can control how you are in the moment. You can control your perspective on things. You can control your emotional reaction depending on the circumstances and the challenges that you face. But that also means holding yourself accountable, and holding yourself accountable in what you are able to control, and the consequences that come with it, positive or negative. There are always going to be consequences to our actions, no matter what they are. And like I said, positive or negative. And I know that when I say consequences, it kind of sounds, it's negative, but I mean, there, I look at it as no matter what we do, there are going to be consequences. And I guess I've always been kind of trying to see how I can kind of shape that word into almost like a neutral meaning, where either way there's going to be a consequence. And the way I mean by that is by focusing on what you can control. Let's say focusing on your emotional reaction, in which someone is trying to gaslight you into going over the top or something like that, overreacting, I should say. And you keep your composure, and you don't overreact, and it angers them, it infuriates them. And let's say that this is someone that you're either in a relationship with, or they're a close friend, and because of your composure and not giving into what they wanted and focusing on what you're able to control, they end up completely shutting you out of their life, disconnecting you. And yeah, it hurts for a time, but you were able to control yourself in that moment. And you can also be proud of yourself after the fact that it didn't lead to something that could have escalated, that could have been a real problem. And I use that as an example because most often or not, we've all found ourselves in a situation like that. I have included. And instead of overreacting, I just disconnected myself from the situation. I accepted their behavior and their actions, and I moved forward. And that is focusing on what you can control. I can only control how I'm going to react to how someone treats me. And you can't control how they're going to treat you. We can't control how other people are going to perceive us and how they're going to treat us. And that's what I mean by there's positive and negative consequences. because you can do something in a positive light, but it's going to look negative to someone. It's that's why I always tend to say the only person I'm trying to impress is me, because no matter who I'm around, even if I'm trying to impress them, I might do everything right, but there might be one tiny little thing that they don't like. And that's what I mean, is that the only person you are trying to impress is yourself. The only person you're trying to control is yourself. There's no one else to try to control in this world. And I know that, social media has made it feel as if you are able to control the world. And yeah, there are some, positive influences that social media has given, and it also has given people a voice. It has allowed people the ability to speak out, to incite change. And we have to also keep in mind that sometimes that change comes with, negative consequences. And that's the thing about focusing on what you can control, is that it's all, in the end, it's going to be determined by who you are as a person and who you in the life that you wish to lead. If you wish to lead a life that, allows you to control your individual self, then you're leading a life of being true to who you are. You're living a life of mindfulness. You're living a life of a open-minded perspective that realizes that you are in control of you are in control of the power that you give to yourself. And I'm not saying, everything I'm saying is not something that you can figure out and overcome it. Like I always say, life is a continuing education unit, and being able to focus on what you can control, that is part of a continuous education unit. Because trust me, there are moments where I get frustrated and I wish there are things that I could control that I have no ability to control whatsoever. But you have to, in those moments, you kind of have to remind yourself, hey, listen, I'm staying positive, I'm staying focused, and I'm staying true. And I'm going to focus on who I am and what I can control and what that means for me in that my personal universe. Because if you don't focus on what you can control, it's a ripple effect, and it could affect everyone else. It can affect people that you love. And that's why I mean your own personal universe. Because if you tend to lash out, if you tend to make a decision that would, be that would go against who you are, or go against, your family or those close around you, then what's the point? You're just you're giving up control of your individuality, and you're allowing your insecurities, your fears, and your ego and selfishness to take over and take control. And that kind of cycles into what I mean by be grateful for what you have. And the part of that is being able to have control over your individuality. How often do you see people now that are so ungrateful for their individuality, ungrateful for being human? The joy of being human means the ability of free thought, the ability to experience life in its totality, the ability to have a consciousness. I mean, how grateful and beautiful is that? And I am at a point in my life where I don't want to take that for granted. And that's part of the reason why, I've created this podcast and try to inspire to be the best version of myself by being better than yesterday, because I believe that we're living in a time right now where, and I know there are people out there who probably preach this stuff and talk about it, who have a much bigger platform than me. But, I know that, it's not necessarily popular. and it's taboo to speak of such things. But I'm grateful for the ability to do that. And I'm grateful that I'm able to share these thoughts and perspectives with the world. And even if no one's listening, at least I get to put it out there in the universe. At least I'm able to know that my gratefulness for being human can inspire others to potentially feel the same way. You know, I'm so grateful at, and I'm a point in my life where I every day I try to be, I'm almost grateful for my job, the roof over my house, my little Mexican Pablo. He's a Chihuahua. um, I'm so grateful for having him here. I'm grateful for being able to work and to bring joy and happiness to the people that I work with and care for. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm even grateful for the troubles that I have, because I think about how grateful I am, but that this trouble that I'm dealing with is 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 nothing compared to what other people go through every single day. And and don't get me wrong, there are days where I get frustrated about silly things, but I also kind of try to joke about it. And even the things that are frustrating for me, I try to joke about it and make light of the situation and be like, well, you know what? It could be this, or it could be worse, and I'm fortunate that this is all I have to deal with. And that in part is focusing on what you can control. That's focusing on your ability to be grateful, your ability to be aware that, the world is bigger than you. And that's part of the reason why I tend to, really have the perspective and the view that I live by, is because the world truly is bigger than me. And everything that I do, it's not all about me. But the individuality of who I am can inspire others and can also create a community and a networking and friends and families that who who um gravitate and orbit around your type of perspectives and energy and gratefulness that you have for the world. That can inspire other people to be like, you know what, man, he's so grateful for just being. And like, I kind of want that. I see that. Like, I want to feel like that. How can I do that? How can I just be grateful for being, for grateful for this and that? And then you start asking yourself, what can I change about me that's making me be constantly the victim or constantly living with the as the ego. And I know it's hard, but those are the first questions and the first steps to take to kind of figuring out why you feel as if you have no control over your individuality and yourself when you do. But you put that control into other things. You put that control into the trends. You put that control into the government. You put that control into relationships. You put that control into addictions and vices. That's unfortunately the state of the world that we're in. But being grateful for what you have, I don't mean to sound like I'm down putting or putting down for people, but I mean, we have to really kind of think about that. I like to say that, the United States is a first world nation with third world problems. And I'm not trying to get political or socio-cultural, but or economical, but you know, we really do live in a nation that it has so much luxury and so much plethora of entertainment and vices, that we have completely have forgotten what it means to be human, and have allowed the citizens to literally be experimented on through crimes against humanity via homelessness, via these false flag events, via these medical experimentations, via military industrial complex, via on unethical police tactics, whatever it may be. And how much of that, greetings Bushido mindset, greetings, and how much of that truly affects our ability to control who we are as individuals, because we are giving ourselves up to such abuse and indoctrination, because we, instead of holding ourselves accountable, we want others to hold that for us. And not everyone is like that. But you're seeing a trend in the world, and especially in Western society, where people are foregoing their ability to be grateful and their ability to focus on their individuality for the hive mentality, because the hive mentality allows them to act irrationally, to behave irrationally, to bully and harass individuals, and how they choose to carry themselves. And I look around there and I see that, and I feel unfortunate that, being a country of such plethora of livable life, that we truly are a nation with third world problems. And that's why, for someone like me, I've volunteered at an orphanage in Honduras. I know, I have been around what true third world nation living is. And I look, and I when I come back here, and I reflect on that, and I look around and I see how so many people have given up their ability to control their individuality, and have forfeited their humanity in favor of subjugation. And I was having this conversation with my mom the other day, and we were kind of talking about the homelessness that's going on in California and other places of the country. And I was explaining to her that mom, some of these people, they're choosing to live this life. A lot of these people, yeah, there are people who have mental health problems, and yeah, there are the veterans, and yes, there are all those people. Hello, Miss Sam C. Yes, there are all those people out there who are homeless due to the circumstances of society and our government. But then there are also people out there who are willingly choosing to give up their individuality, to give up their humanity in favor of living inhumane. And it's causing a disillusionment within our society, and our ability to be grateful, to live, to be able to live healthy and true. And you're seeing that, whether it's with the unfortunate situations that's going on in college campuses with the indoctrination and the manipulation, and you're seeing all of these people just kind of give up their individuality in favor of the hive mind, and because they don't want to be grateful for who they are, for being an individual. You're seeing that every single day. Every single day, people are will harass and threaten and bully people who advocate for you're focusing on yourself, holding yourself accountable. And I'm going to use the term, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And I know not everyone really likes that, but what the way I'm going to interpret it, and I appreciate everyone stopping by. Make sure to hit that like button. What I mean by pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is more of, and I'm not trying to use it in the derogatory sense, but in the terms of, you need to get your shit together, all right, and push forward. I love this amazing quote from Rocky Balboa, and he's talking with his son, and his son is yelling at him about doing this next fight. He's like, you're old, you shouldn't do this. It's gonna embarrass me. It's gonna look bad for me. I have worked so hard on trying to get my own life, and distancing away from you, this is gonna ruin all of that. And you're hearing this kid talk like that, and he's like, and Rocky's like, well, I've I remember when you were this small, and how fast you've grown, and how proud I am of you. But then he goes and he says, somewhere along the line you've changed. You stop being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for someone to blame, like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world is a nasty place, and it will beat you down and keep you there permanently if you let it. But it's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. So if you know what you're worth, you have to go out there and get what you're worth, but you have to be willing to take the hits. And I really love that quote because it really is it really to me encapsulates what it means to be human and what it means to focus on what you can control. Because there are going to be things that you can control, but it's still going to hurt you. It's still going to beat you down. It's still going to make life tough, but it's going to generate the ability and the strength of perseverance, as Bushido Mindset so eloquently has brought up. And that's what's so beautiful about being able to focus on what you control, is that you're able to focus on the ability to generate that perseverance to overcome the obstacles and be grateful for who you are and what you have accomplished. And how often nowadays are we not even grateful for anything that we accomplish? Like I always say, the small term victories pave way for the long term victories. And that encapsulates perseverance. That means focusing on what you can control. That means being grateful for what you have in the moment and long lasting. And, those little victories can be anything. It can be the fact that, you were able to wake up on a set time consistently. You were able to advocate for yourself at your job and speak your mind. You were able to hold someone accountable who's been giving you a hard time or who has been avoiding responsibilities. And in those moments, you were focusing on what you can control. And maybe you just didn't necessarily get what you wanted out of it, or maybe it turned into a bit of a headache, but you overcome the situation and you took control. You took control of what you have the ability to control. And in the end, you can be grateful for that. You can be grateful to be like, wow, you know what? This was a great learning experience. I'm really grateful that I took this chance. I reached out. I tried to hold them accountable. Yeah, they tried to undermine me. Yeah, they made excuses, but they now see that I'm willing to stand up for myself. And maybe next time they won't do this. And you might see a change in that person's behavior. Maybe now they'll see, oh wow, okay, this guy, he's serious, or she's really serious about who she is, and she's standing up for herself. And it will take some people aback. It really does. But that right there, that might seem like a large victory, but in actuality, it's actually a small victory. Because the larger victory would be being able to continue that perseverance of yourself and to continue that type of authority and confidence in yourself every single day. Now that will be the long-term victory. But you got to work yourself there, and you got to keep doing those little victories, those little micro victories. And even within those micro victories, you start learning how to be grateful for yourself. You start learning to how to be grateful for all the experiences and the chances to prove yourself. And I'm not saying that this is easy. It's not easy. This takes time to gather the strength to be able to even attempt this. And even then, like I always say, life is a continuing education unit. So you're never going to stop learning how to persevere in your ability to focus on what you can control. And being grateful for what you have, it's important to understand how grateful you are to be in the position that you're in. And even no matter how difficult it is, there's someone out there in a worse situation. I don't take for granted that I have the lifestyle that I have and the things that I have, because in other places of the world, and not even in the world, within this country, even a couple miles away from me, there are areas where I'm like, no one has anything. And I don't take that for granted. I don't look down at those people. I don't become disgusted. I look at that situation. I'm like, I'm grateful for where I am. And I can't look down to that. All I can do is be frustrated at the system at hand and do what I can to try to make the system a little bit better. And I know I can't do that, but maybe with putting my voice out and trying to put out this mindfulness and this type of perspective, maybe it might help other people to want to, as that classic film, pay it forward. Pay that gratefulness forward. And I was, talking with my mom today. She was getting frustrated with, being able to do certain things and, and getting older. And I was like, well, you have to remember that, you know, you're in a grateful situation. You're in a good spot. And there are ways that you can improve on your ability to be able to persevere in these, being able to have more mobility and strength and things like that. And there are things that you can do. But you also have to know that in order to do those things, you just have to kind of be grateful that you have the ability to do it. And I was trying to explain to her, like, I understand that you're frustrated about not always having the strength to do things, but know that there are avenues out there and options for you that you can do. But you just have to remind yourself about that. And that's kind of like looking at the glass half full. And that's kind of what I mean by be grateful for what you have. Because there might be things that you would love to have, but like, sure, yeah, I would, love to have an Xbox Series X. Not probably not now because they turned it into a commie Game Boy because it turns off when they don't want you playing it. But anyways, what I mean is like, yeah, there are things that I would love to have. Or yeah, I would love to have a bigger TV, but hey, I'm grateful for the TV that I already have. It's a beautiful TV. I know someone thinks I need to remove the plastics around the sides, but that's a different conversation. We're not going to get into that today. But there are there are things that we have to just understand that, wow, I have this. Wow, I have that. How often can we be happy for the fact that, wow, I have a car? And like, oh man, my tire blew. Hey, your tire blew. You don't have to get a new engine. You don't have to get a new muffler or anything like that. Yeah, it sucks that your tire blew, but that's something that you can fix. And that's what I mean by being grateful for what you have. Be grateful for the fact that you only have a blown out tire. Be grateful for the fact that, you it was only a fender bender. Be grateful for for the negative things that aren't too bad. And I know that that's tough because even the little frustrating things we get, pissed off about, someone could have cut us off in the road and that could keep us wound up for the entire day. And it happens to me, but I think to myself like, you know what? Fine. Don't get me involved in your car accident. I think to myself, you know what? I'm grateful for that they did that and they didn't get me into their car accident, into their business, into their mojo. Perspective. We have enough, but society says we need more. But you're right, Bushido mindset. Society does say that we need more, but look at the type of society, look at the type of perspective society wants us to have. It is not a perspective that supports individuality. It's not a perspective that supports the family unit. It's not a perspective that supports religion. So that's also something that we have to keep in mind with our perspectives. How are our perspectives being guided by our lived experiences, by our continuing education units, or is our perspective being guided by the government, by social hierarchies and social cultures? Those are also things that we have to ask ourselves. Because if we don't take time to really ask ourselves those fundamental questions, then we're not really asking ourselves who we are. I mean, and I kind of like to say it like this is like, there are a lot of people right now, and I've been there myself, who have drunken the Kool-Aid. And what I mean by that is kind of like you are you are becoming part of like the cult of personality or the hive mentality. And when you begin to drink the Kool-Aid of some of these groups, you really are becoming, sometimes, to quote, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're becoming the very thing, you sought to destroy. And I think that's kind of what's really incredible of the world that we're living in right now. I mean, it's another, to quote another one, Harvey Dent in Christopher Nolan's Batman, you can die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And how many people who started out having a really good perspective Bushido mindset, who have, powerful voices or have a platform, and now their voice and their perspective is leading people down a very dark and dangerous path, and leading to, to a neo westernized version of a color revolution. And in that kind of perspective, there is no control of the individual, and there is no ability to be grateful. There are plenty of countries to look at for that type of mindset. And I talk about, when I mean color revolution, look at Mao, look at China. And that's what, when you talk about, perspectives, and we have enough, a society says we need more. Look at the type of perspectives that you see these elites trying to push onto Western society. A lot of people kind of, and this was not supposed to get into lounge Ronin topics and mentality, but we have to think about the fact that there are these outside forces that want us to give up our control and our individuality, and they want us to be grateful to the state, and they want to shift our perspective into how they feel society must dictate and live. And I'm completely against that, because that leads to 1984, that leads to Brave New World. And I don't aspire to that kind of ideology. And that's why I believe in the individual. That's why I believe in being able to focus on what you can control, because you are controlling your life. You are controlling your own humanity. You're not giving it up to someone else. And that also requires being grateful for being human, being grateful for having the chance to actually experience life in its totality, to be able to think and process, to be able to write and draw, to be able to have coitus, to be able to do all of these kind of things, to be mad, to be sad. It's such a beautiful thing, and they are so hell bent on taking that away from us. They don't want us to experience being human anymore. They want us to live in a hive mentality. They don't want us to be grateful for being alive, for being. They don't want us to be grateful for having the chance to develop new relationships, to be happy, to accomplish goals. They want us to be grateful that they are providing us humanity, when in reality it's not humanity. It is a control mechanism. It is a transhumanistic agenda. They want to forego our humanity in favor of a android-like mind of state. And you see that everywhere around us. And I, when I see all of that, I look to myself and I'm like, man, I gotta hold on to my individuality. Every day I gotta wake up and make sure that I'm grateful that I have a job, that I'm grateful that I can support people, that I'm grateful that I'm here being able to share these thoughts and opinions. And that's something that I also feel is dwindling in the American culture, or even in Western culture, but especially in American culture, we're not grateful for, and not trying to sound patriotic here, but we're not grateful for being in the most, free country in the world. I'm gonna put out a little fun fact for you guys. Did you know that we are the only country that has a First Amendment? Did you know that the UK does not have a First Amendment? That Canada doesn't have a First Amendment? Did you know that in the UK, you can get arrested and go to jail for something you say on social media? That recently happened to a veteran of the UK. He put out a meme and someone called the police saying that it triggered them and it made them fearful for their life. And that man ended up going to prison for it. So that's one thing that I'm grateful for every single day, is the fact that I have a First Amendment that allows me to speak my mind and allows me to sit here and say this. And that's what I mean in America, is that we're starting to lose. We're starting to not be grateful for having a constitution. We're starting to not be grateful for being a country of wealth and prosperity. Like we're not grateful for that. We're losing that ability to be grateful for the fact that if you want to, you can choose your gender pronoun. If you want to, you can choose where you want to live. If you want to, you can choose who you want to sleep with. In some countries, they don't have that luxury. In some countries, depending on who you sleep with, that could get you killed. And in some countries, think about that. In Iran, right? Homosexuality is illegal. And if a woman wants to, if a woman turns out that she is a lesbian, the only option that she has is to actually get a complete sex changing to become a man if she wants to be accepted in society. Look it up. It's crazy. But think about it. If here, you don't have to be forced into that situation. Granted, Bushido mindset though, society right now is trying to force people into those kind of situations in this country. And that's also what I mean, is that we as a collective in the West, especially in the United States, you're continuing to see people give up their ability to focus on what they can control in favor of the inability to hold themselves accountable. And then they are ungrateful for the fact that they can go to the dollar store and get soap for $1, that they can get bleach for $1, that if they really want to, they can get Snickers bar for $1. Like, we have to think about how grateful there are. Do you think that there are dollar stores in South Africa or in North Africa or in Sudan? Do you think there are dollar stores in India? Do you think there are dollar stores in South America? Like, we have to really think about this kind of stuff, and I think about that. I know not everyone's like that, and I'm not saying you have to think just like me, but what I am saying is that we really have to start reevaluating how we view being human in Western society and how we view the world around us. And like I said, I'm fortunate that I was able to go to the orphanage, as I spoke to earlier. I was fortunate to have those experiences at a younger age, and it aided in my ability to view society. And all I'm saying for anyone out there who's listening, and for us as an individual, is that we have to really start reevaluating our perspective on what it means to be human as a collective. Look what's going on in Turkey. Look what's going on in Ohio. Look what's going on in Ukraine. Look what's going on in Central America, in South America. Look at what, look at all those situations, and then look at what's going on here and realize, man, I kind of have it pretty easy. I don't have to deal with the American government running coup d'etats in my country in South America. I don't have to worry about these are the things you have to think about. It's just, and even here, unfortunately, the government is going to war on us as individuals as well, and that kind of ties into the whole perspective that society is trying to force us in. They're forcing us. You need to say these things. You need to confirm to this. You need to just acknowledge me in this. All sorts of stuff that they're forcing into us that's harming our society and harming us as a human race. A lot of these agendas and things that they're promoting and in the social culture and in the government, it goes against what it means to be human. And that's kind of what I mean about, focusing on what you can control and be grateful for what you have and that also means being grateful that you're human, that you get to exist. That your tadpole, stuck the landing. All right, you should be grateful for that. There are moments where I kind of think about that, like, damn, like, wow, I I won the race. I made it. I sucked the landing, and I'm here. And now I have the opportunity and the chance to do something with it. And even if it affects my own personal universe, at least I made change in my own world. And maybe that might affect the entire universe as a whole, even if it's just a little fraction. But that's the beauty of being able to focus on what you control. That's the joy of being grateful for what you have. And I want everyone out there to remind yourself, be grateful for being human. Be grateful for being able to smile. Be grateful for being able to stand up for yourself. Be grateful to have your favorite meal and your favorite dessert. Because life is too short to give up control on living, to give up control on being human. And I know it's difficult, especially during the times that we're living in. But, every day I try to go around with a light smile on my face so that anyone who ever sees it sees, hey, you know what? He seems to be in a good spirit. Maybe I can try to do the same. To be yourself in a world that constantly tries to make you someone else is strength. Indeed, Bushido mindset. That's why I always end, the live streams, the podcast with stay positive, stay focused, stay true. Because those are to me, the three pillars of how you're able to have the strength to be yourself. Because you need to stay positive. Even during the down times. You need to stay focused. Because you need to be focused on what you can control. You need to be focused in the moment. And you need to stay true. Stay true to your individuality. Stay true to what it means to be human. Stay true to the art of living. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Monday Mindset Rants. Please make sure to hit that like button and leave a comment with your thoughts below. And if you're catching the replay, please make sure to share with like-minded individuals. And remember, focus on what you can control and be grateful for what you have. Stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.